Don't let your company control your career or destiny. You deserve a career that takes care of you. You need to serve yourself and not just the organization. On tonight's episode of Work Trauma, How Corporations Really Work, we are grateful to visit with Julie Bauke, renowned career coach and career expert, who will share with us how to best navigate your career so that you are in control of your career and not some indifferent or toxic company. Hello, I'm Michael Denisoff, CEO and Principal Director of Denisoff Consulting Group, an international consulting firm dedicated to innovating organizations and how they are managed. I've spent my entire career helping companies to perform better, be more successful, and grow strong, thriving cultures. And this is possible, but only if we are really honest about how corporations really work. Welcome to Work Trauma, How Corporations Really Work podcast, where we pull back the curtain to let you know what is really going on at companies so you can make good decisions about who you work for, how you navigate your career, and if you are a leader, how to build better and fairer and more successful organizations. On this episode, we are in for a treat, visiting with career expert and all-around amazing person, Julie Bauke. Let's get going. All right, welcome to Work Trauma with our special guest tonight, Julie Bauke. I'm so excited about this. Welcome, Julie. We're so excited to have you here at the Work Trauma podcast. I'm going to read your bio in a moment, but I need to tell this story. So when I moved to this area, 10 plus years ago, every time I would kind of do a presentation and do a speaking engagement, people would say, "Oh, you got to meet this woman, Julie Bauke. She would like her. She's kind of you would like her. She's so great." And I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." And then like after like 6 or 7 times, they're like, "I probably should meet this woman, and it would probably be cool." And then one day I was listening to the local talk radio. When you get older, you start listening to talk radio more and more. And I think I was late for work, and I heard this woman talking straight about business and how business works, particularly around careers. And I'm like, this person is amazing. She's better than me by far. And I heard the name at the end, and it was you, Julie. So I am so glad. I finally got to reach out. We had some lunch, and we got to talk, and Julie was nice enough to join us today. So welcome.
Sounds like you resisted for years, and you finally gave in.
I finally went to the light side, yes.
That's right.
Let me read Julie's bio. I love this opening. Julie Bauke believes that we all deserve careers that serve our lives. You know, I love that. It's so you. It's just so you too. And I think it's connected to the Work Trauma podcast, because part of our role here is to make sure we just tell the truth how companies really work, so people can, one, make better choices about who they work for and how to best navigate their career. So I love that. She's got 25 plus years of experience working with executives, professional athletes, and career-focused people of all industries and professions, bringing practical inspiration on how to live our best career lives from start to finish. I love that. She is also a national media expert, workshop facilitator, and keynote speaker. Julie has been featured in more than 100 prominent media outlets, including CNBC's Power Lunch, Money Magazine, and TV segments with the Scripps Network, News Network, and Sinclair Broadcasting appeared on their TV stations nationwide. She's also a regular contributor to the top radio stations in New York, Chicago, Dallas, San Francisco, San Diego, LA, and Miami. She's also an author of Stop Peeing on Your Shoes, Avoiding the 7 Mistakes That Screw Up Your Job Search. Love it. And the creator of Career Catalyst and Intentional Career Management Experience. And I think you're working also close to finishing up your second book.
I am, yes. It's finished. It's just all the other stuff that has to happen after that. It's going to be a career book for women specifically. Yes.
Oh, excellent. Well, we'll be sure to be on the lookout for that. And when you're done with that, please tell me. I'll be sure to kind of post it to our subscribers and our listeners to this podcast. All right, Julie, we want to just jump right into this, because you I hate to admit it, but you're smarter and cooler than me, and you're amazing. Like I hang on every word you say when we were at lunch for sure. But tell me a little bit about yourself. So tell me a little bit about your background and then how you get into man, I got to do this thing about helping people with their careers so they have a good career life and they make good choices. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So my first 16 years was in human resources, and I realized that the longer I was in it, the higher I went on the org chart, the more miserable I was. And I've always been that person who knows how happy I am, and I try to fix it. And it's like, this is just brutal. When you feel like you're living for the weekends, it's just, and I just get so tired of the BS. Just got so tired of just all the crap that I can't do this anymore. And so I will tell you the moment I decided I had to leave HR. I was working for a company, and the CEO had quite a healthy ego, and he said, "Let's do an employee survey," or it was I don't remember whose idea it was, and but I said, "Okay, and so we do this employee survey, and the results come back, and they're not great." And his reaction was, "Put it away and never talk about it again."
It's terrible. It's
And
terrible.
I said, "Oh."
So
And I
wrong.
just said, I can't operate with integrity with that kind of environment. So at that point, went to work I decided to change careers. I always wanted to talk to people about their careers, even in my HR role. So I went from there to working for an outplacement firm for 9 years, working with people who just lost their jobs.
Right.
And then in 2007, I started my own thing. I said, I know what I want, but it doesn't exist anywhere. And so I have to create it. And so I figured out, and I said, I don't want to just work with people after they've lost their jobs. I want to teach people what they need to be doing while they have jobs so that they're less likely to end up on the layoff list and they're happier. So we were
Nice.
coming out of this period where, I'm a boomer, I came of age in the time when it was your leadership is smarter than you are, and they will tell you when you're ready to move and if you're ready to move. And we walked in the door at 22 and we knew nothing. They knew everything more than we did. And they did. People that had been there longer. So that top down, that I'll tell you what to do and when to do it, has really been entrenched in that employer-employee relationship for so long. And I knew it had to change eventually. Well, it really did start to change when Gen Z started coming to the workplace and with COVID. And all of a sudden, I was using the word career happy like 10 plus years before people were ready to hear it. And I kept saying, this is ridiculous. Why wouldn't you want to be happy at work? Why wouldn't you want to do the work to find the role that really makes your life better and and helps you contribute at a higher level? So I just could never get my mind around that. And boy, I'll tell you what, about 2020, we started to hear people start going, wait a minute, I want to be happy at work. How do I do that? And so now it's like, took a long time, but it's finally, my message really resonates with people now and a lot of it really is because of the way corporations have and continue to treat people. That's a big part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. We're so aligned on so many things because I just don't understand how toxic organizations can be. And, because, I think, right, the pandemic, made louder, right? And they sped up a lot of trends, right? And then we come out
Yes.
of this and we have this kind of anti-work movement,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
this, the great resignation. And I even now I'm an Xer, although you look much better than me. I'm an Xer, but I can relate to it. Now I didn't relate to the solutions to it, which was like, well, pay off my loan and let me do whatever I want. But the concern about the toxicity of work and people just kind of being so unhappy and so toxic was crazy, and it crescendoed and it kind of sped up during that period, huh?
Well, yeah, one of the most interesting stats to me is when we were all forced into our homes to work, or many people were, obviously, not everyone, but that meant Gen X and boomers were, for the first time, experiencing what life was like when you didn't have to go into an office.
Right.
So when you look at the stats around the pace at which people retire, like how many people retire per year, it shot up right after COVID.
Right.
And so boomers were like, yeah, I think I have enough. I think I have enough. I don't want to go back in the office. In fact, this is great. I'm not going to. And so boomers left the job market at a much faster clip post COVID when companies started saying come back. Boomers started to go, yeah, I don't think so. And at the same time, Gen Z's like, yeah, I don't want to do it either. So it was like this wholesale change with that employer-employee relationship.
Yeah. And I think for me, I love that you're saying this because, yeah, I make it's easy to make fun of the younger generations, right? But there's, I kind of admire them in some ways, right? When I
Yeah.
was at the hospital, we'd have these nurses, and we would say, nurses, kind of the younger nurses, forget that people were still sick after 5 p.m. or on Saturday or Sunday, and so I would have these focus groups and say, what more a dollar an hour could it be that you'll work on these times? $5, $10, $50, and most of them were like, no, it's not about money. It's about life and
Right.
experience.
Right.
And
That's
part
right.
of me said, yeah, but these people, these kids really were sick. But part of me says, I kind of admire that. It was
Yeah.
kind of good and exciting, and I was a little jealous of it a little bit.
Yeah. And when you're going to have a change, the change in how people look at work, even the difference between millennials and Gen Z, even though they're not that many years apart in age, they look at Gen Z is very different from millennials.
Yeah,
And so they look around and said, well, wait a minute. Are my grandparents, my parents, whoever, aunts and uncles, everybody gave their all at work. And what do they have to show for it? They've been miserable. Yeah,
yep,
I don't really want to live my life that way. And there's a lot to learn there. And I do think, and people just they could roll their eyes at Gen Z. And I get it because they do some dumb things that are rooted in immaturity, though.
yep,
I don't want everything I did and said and thought in my 20s to be out there in the public. And, and so they will grow up, they
right.
will start, but they will refine and redefine what work looks like and the role it plays in our lives. That train has already left the station.
Yeah, yeah, it is. That's why I tell companies now, and you hear there's the constant theme. We're not going back. It's never going back,
Nope.
and that's why I get crazy when I hear crazy discussion about should we bring them back to the office? Should it be a hybrid? That's to me. I just wrote a blog about this. That's not the right questions. The question
Uh-uh.
is, what do we need? What should it be? What do we want out of people? How do we not? Should they come back to the office or not? To me, that's such a weak question. Even during the pandemic, people would say, how do I keep engagement? When people working from home, and my quick response was always, if you had engagement in the office, you can have it while they're working
Yeah.
remotely. And the
Yeah.
converse is true. If you didn't have it then, they're
Right.
not going to have it there. So,
The four walls, everybody inside of four walls does not engagement make.
it
It just
doesn't.
doesn't.
We know that. By the way, I had that. You told that story about the employee engagement survey. I've told this on an earlier episode, but it's worth repeating. I got to this new company out here. It's a company I came out here for. $10 billion company. We did the survey just completed, and they decided what to do with it when I first got there, and I was part to kind of help coach them through it. And by far, the lowest indice on the employee engagement survey was trust and transparency in the executive team.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, that's good. It's very clear. I'm like, so you guys gotta kind of look at yourselves, see what you can do better, make yourself more available. And no, they spent $3 million on a culture program for everybody else, and
Of course.
that was their response. You know, and
Yeah.
and of course when they had this is a whole other subject, but they had the spin artist, the internal communications person. Everything was just rainbows and puppy dogs.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
didn't want to talk about the stuff that they should have talked to, and it would have been easy. People are generally forgiving.
They are, and they're watching. They're
Yeah,
watching to see what the top leadership does, and the people. I always say it's got to be that the air is thinner at the top, because when people they start to lose their minds, because when people get to upper levels, it's like they think that all of a sudden they're anointed
I do.
and they have all the answers and they're there and they're smart and you're stupid, and they're not, and just do what I say, I'm smart, that's why I'm here, and you're not. And they just forget about the importance of being a role model, of being collaborative, of being all those things. And there are certainly leaders who lead like that, but
Yeah,
unfortunately I do think they're the exception and not
yeah.
the rule.
I love that you say that, because I really worried. I had my brother on earlier as a guest a couple weeks ago, and he's like, "You're going to be a negative." I'm like, "It's just my experience."
Yeah.
The really good leaders, the people that I admire, and like they were there, but they were fewer and far between than a
Yeah.
lot of people. All right, so I want to bounce this off you. So one of the premises of work trauma, of why companies are so toxic and unfun to work in, is I think a part of it I think is ego, and people definitely just think they know better, and you start believing your own hype, that kind of a thing. but I think a part of it is about preservation and protection. So let me give you an example. So we have Mary here, right? So she's great, right? And she's young, and so we're gonna promote her to supervisor, and early on, like, she's awesome. She thinks, and she's not afraid to rock the boat. She thinks outside the box. She's proactive. She does all these great things. Then she's put on the high performance list or the high potential list, right? And then she starts growing in her career, and everything they like about her, it's great. Rock the boat, think about proactive, all this great. Not afraid to speak up. And then Mary gets to that role that crosses that level where you're making $450 a year, twice as much in bonuses. You got deferred comp, you got stock options. Your kids' private school are being paid for, and Mary goes from being a great leader to, I don't want to lose what I got.
Yep.
And I see a lot of that where, like, and I've been in those meetings, man, where they're, we need a scapegoat, and it's become Survivor Island, but it's really about protecting.
It is always, Michael, always.
Right? And then
protecting what you have and preserving what you have at the expense of doing what's right. We see it in politics. Yep. We see it in corporations. What does all that have in common? Human beings. I think it's a very base instinct to protect what you have, even if it means throwing others under the bus.
It does, and there's some point where I kind of get it. I had somebody, who's a friend of mine who was a pretty moral person, but when things were going bad, and I'm like, hey, do you really want to do that? That doesn't sound like it's something you would want to do. And he's like, I got a mortgage, a wife, and 3 kids. Yeah. So I understood it, but part of me, the noble part of me, which was easy for me, was like, yeah, but don't you want to show a better example for your kids? But but that's in the feed. So I understand it, but it really becomes that. And I've seen a lot of good people, and sometimes they don't do bad things themselves. They just kind of look away. Sometimes they just, it's the look away. You've probably, especially when you're in HR, you saw the look away. Right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And there was I remember when I was working at a place where there was a senior executive who was very inappropriate with women. Yeah. And this was in the 90s. And everybody knew it. But he had great numbers.
Yep.
And then the moment his numbers started to tank, then they cared about the other stuff because it became an excuse to get rid of him.
Yes. That's so funny. It's true. I find that particularly with salespeople. Salespeople are like the most egregious, like, sexual harassers in the 2000s, But everybody's bringing the big numbers, and then it's a big thing to protect them. But I find that I want to connect. You made a good connection for me, because I always call it the 4 Ps, which I can't remember now. But once they feel protective and their preservation there, then it becomes about prestige and power, right? Yeah. And that's where it becomes I'm kind of entitled. I'm kind of, I think you said, anointed. I'm so special. I'm just so much more special than you.
Why do you think politicians hang on to their jobs and keep getting elected until they're in their 90s and can barely speak?
And what's funny about
because it's their whole identity.
It's a whole identity. That's right. Yep. Yeah. Matter of fact, it's funny you say that, because that's what made me. Because I kept on thinking, why? I like the root cause thing, right? What really causes these people to do it? And then I realized that it was the politicians that made me think of it, right? As soon as they get elected, the next day they don't go to, great, I'm going to serve the people of this great nation or my great state. It's great. No. How am I going to get elected in 4 years?
How am I going to get the best table in the restaurant? How am I get people to continue to bow to me? Because if you are and this is really true of anybody, the more invested and bonded you are with your professional identity, those are the people that have a hard time retiring.
Yeah. Yep.
The hard time moving on, because if I'm not Senator so-and-so, or if I'm not the CEO of this or that, or Dr. So-and-so, then who am I? Right. And instead of trying to figure out who they are outside of that, they cling to it well past time when it makes sense. And this is true of, it's just, again, it's human beings.
It is. And I don't know how you do it, because it doesn't have to be a lot of them to really throw the balance off.
Yeah.
I remember one time I was a young whippersnapper. I was teaching a course on emotional intelligence, right? And the whole thing was like, if you have emotional intelligence, you'll be a great leader, right? And you showed a guy or a woman who was in charge. And if you saw somebody yell on the phone, but if you have low EQ, you'd be a bad leader. And then somebody had the nerve, rightfully so, to say, if that's true, how come there are so many bad executives with low EQ? I'm like, that's true. And the answer is they learned the power structure, right? Mm-hmm. They learned how to manipulate the system. They learned how to hold things over each other. They made sure your chair was smaller than theirs when they came into the office. I mean, they were really into. I had a great guy who was a teacher on somatics, and I would always ask him about this. Like, there's some people who are so in tune how to manipulate people and how to use that power structure, which is crazy because everything we talk about is emotional intelligence. Isn't that beautiful? Servant leadership. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah, until you start taking away what's mine.
Right. Well, and what are we rewarding? What are we incenting? What are we, and yeah, so you get to that level, and you're all of a sudden the person that makes a couple $1,000,000 a year, which then buys you this kind of lifestyle, which then buys you access to all those places, and you become intoxicated with that. And you lose, and then you really just lose track of that. Becomes your world, and you don't know anybody who's hungry, and you don't know anybody who's working on the line and is having to miss Christmas. You don't, because you're not in those worlds anymore. It's easy to ignore it.
It is. You live I've seen it. I've been on the edge of it, right? You live a totally different life. You just do.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, years ago I was at a J&J company, which will remain unnamed, but this was great. There was two executives there, right? And one was for international, one was for North America. And across the street at this company was the plant, right? So one executive would never, and I would say, you should go over there and, bring some food, make pancakes, hang out on the line, make some product with them. Oh no, that was too beneath her. And the other one was like, yeah, I'll do that. That'd be great. I love these people. They're amazing. And, and it was really cool. The only thing was, it was a little bit of justice in the world. When the one who ignored them needed them to work extra hard, they were like, I got to get home and take care of my kid.
Oh,
the other one, who was this lovely woman, said, hey, can you help me out? And they were like, yeah, we'll do it for you.
That's right.
But you only have those glimpses of those justice, though.
It's just so common sense. It's just so simple, isn't it? That I don't care who you are or how much money you make.
Yeah.
You are no better. I'm sorry. You're no better than the person working in the plant. You're just not. I've always believed that. Like, who do I think I am? So I don't know, but it's funny. It comes from a real place of insecurity and all kinds of other stuff that we all have.
No, you're right. I think it was like that, in the old days, because there was this power and this grunchiness. And then but I think it's when we started seeing like these CEO rock stars and all this stuff, and then a lot of the fraudulent ones too, right? From Thanos and all that stuff. It became a thing, and it's just, and then we saw executive comp do this. Right? Like this, executive comp like this, but that's the other side.
Yeah, it's like they're believing their own press.
So so there's a part of me, that I don't think it's tenable. I think there's going to be, of course, with AI coming around the corner, way faster than anybody thought. I think with the Great Resignation and people really rethinking how they, like you said, about how they, I want to be happy. I'd rather have a little bit less money and be happy than work my tail off and not have a life. It's the old adage nobody said on their deathbed, "God, I wish I spent more time at the office."
You know what obscures that, though, Michael? Is the job market's not good.
I know.
When the job market is, people will hang on to their jobs even if they're miserable because they're so afraid because they hear these horror stories about the job market. And so when the job market's really good, you can afford to take more risks when it comes to doing a job search. But when it isn't, it's like, man, the devil I know is better than no devil at all. And so people just hang on for dear life because they're so afraid they're not going to get anything else. And so it'll be interesting to see how that impacts how Gen Z looks at work over the next couple of years.
No, that's true. That's true. My solution, which I need to talk to you about someday, is really to go in a very different direction and go to strictly pay for performance. It's almost like everybody becomes a free agent. It makes a lot more sense, right?
Yeah. So interestingly, a few weeks, sometime recently, the CEO of AT&T came out and said something just like that.
Yeah.
And people went berserk. He's like, we have a performance culture. We do not have a loyalty culture. It's a performance culture. And Netflix actually says, we run our organization like a professional sports team. You perform, you stay. You don't perform, you're not on our roster anymore.
Which I like, which, by the way, we've been asking for as long as I've been around. It's like, pay for performance. Now it's like, I'm kind of lazy as a manager. We don't want to set goals to things. We'll do this, this half, but,
Yeah.
performance thing, blah blah blah. Okay, so you hit on something. I think, matter of fact, it was the first time I heard you on the radio. This is the one that made me kind of just, yeah, my God. The other thing that just drives me nuts, it's just painful because, I'm sure I'm going to use your words because you said it so perfectly, but these companies will ask for this amazing level of fealty and loyalty to them when we know by definition the only people they're loyal to is the shareholders, which by the way isn't a bad thing or a good thing. It's the
Yeah.
thing. So, and yet they have the nerve to constantly, come on, take one for the team. You should go over and blah 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 blah. Tell me about that, because that's gotta have driven you a lot through what you do.
Absolutely, yes. An absolute truth is that your company wants you until the day they don't.
Yeah,
And you are valuable as long as you are, I mean, you will be retained as long as you're providing value.
yeah,
That's equivalent or higher than the amount of money you're being paid.
yeah.
And for this all this happy talk about we're a family, no, you're not. That's like the thing that really gets to me.
Ugh.
We're like a family. No, you're not. It's not a family unless you are actually family. It's not a family at your company. And so yeah, they never forget, the company, who the company is beholden to. And it's also a very short-term approach. What's
Yeah.
this quarter look like? What's this quarter look like? And so you are seen literally as employees are seen as our employees are our most valuable asset. No, they're a commodity. I mean, if you can live without them, you will. And so what I always tell people
Yeah.
from the employee side is you always want to operate with integrity, of course, but don't be loyal to anybody. Don't be loyal to any place over yourself. Your loyalty first should be to yourself and your family and your career
Sure.
and what's best for you. And if that happens to be staying at that company, that's great. But both sides have to agree, that it's valuable for us to continue this relationship.
That's right. It's got to be a good social contract. Otherwise, because what do they say? I've been on both sides of it, right? What do they say when you're fired? It's nothing personal. It's just business. And that's
Right.
why it would drive me crazy. But this is why I love people, and I feel bad. This is what gets my ire up. And you too, I imagine. I've talked to other people like, well, I got this new job. Maybe I should give them 3 weeks or 4 weeks because I don't want to leave them in the lurch. I'm like, if they wanted to fire you tomorrow, they would do it.
You
Take
bet.
2 weeks. Don't burn any bridges. It's
Right.
customary. And then move on and have a great life.
That's
Yeah,
right.
but I kind of
That's
feel
right.
bad. Well, if they fired you, they would not feel bad.
That's right. That's right. They'd forget about you tomorrow. We know that. We've seen it. And I remember back when I was working with people who'd just been let go, for so many of them, it was like shocking that they could be laid off.
Yep.
But then, because they'd been raised in a corporate time of like loyalty,
Yeah.
and then they would go get another job. Then they'd be laid off again. I can't believe it happened again. And it took people at least a couple times to understand that it's going to keep happening, and it's not necessarily a referendum on you. It could be maybe, but you have to look out for yourself. So the worst thing you can do is take a new job and then put your head down and do nothing but work and ignore your own career. That's just it's just bad practice. It's not
It
good
is.
for you.
It is. And it's easy to do because like, oh man, I finally got a job. I don't have to worry about the stress of getting another job. Two, you also, come on, you've been at these town halls where we love you, cheer for you. Here's a free T-shirt. It's just it's a scam. And again, I'm hard on it because I would rather say, don't treat people like that and patronize them. And by the way, the $500,000 you spent on that stupid party that was all about manipulating them, let's give them a bonus. Pay them better,
Yeah. So yeah, this is why Gen Z is saying, I don't really want to work in corporate America, because they've heard these stories over and over again. They're like, why? Why would I work in corporate America? And corporate America is so dumb about it because they're like, oh, they just don't know, they're just, what's wrong with them? They don't want to work. No, that's not necessarily so. They just don't want to work in this. They just don't want work to have the same role in their life that it has had in yours.
No, it's true. And again, I'm jealous of it because I still have those, as an Xer, I still have those tendencies because I grew up, right? Because I would always say, before Generation X, right, there was this kind of work. And then the X kind of brought us work-life balance, right? And then the millennials, you could argue, gave us life-work balance. And then you got the Zeds going, life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
I have to. So, but again, and every time I want to kind of cram on them, I say to them, I don't blame them.
No.
Because
What?
I've definitely, through my years, I've fallen into the trap of believing. There is this guy, man. He could give this leadership speech that would make you get goosebumps and cry and just, I'd do anything for him in this company. But man, offline, man, that guy was a snake. It's just crazy.
And he thinks nobody knows that. He thinks nobody notices his sneakiness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But lifetime, you got to go along with it because you need the paycheck.
Right. Yeah. And so everyone rolls their eyes and goes back to work.
Love it. All right, I got to ask you this. So I have heard somebody say this. I've heard many people say this. I'm sure you said this. I think, but I want to get your take on it. When people say there is no such thing as job security, how do you respond to that?
Their job security is because you could be laid off tomorrow. There is no such thing as job security or employee loyalty. It is job security has actually never really been a thing except back before they started doing layoffs. You have to live as if every day when you go in, I know this is traumatic to think about, but it could be your last day.
Yeah.
So I always say to people, if Monday you show up and the company has decided that they're going to lay the whole department off or outsource what you do or just let you go, whatever it is, you have to always be, one of my favorite phrases is be ready to stay, be ready to go.
Oh, I love it.
Make sure you're in the right job where you are, make sure you're providing value, make sure you're a high performer. That increases your odds of being retained if you want to be retained. And the other side is if you're not going to be retained, you need to be ready to go. Your LinkedIn profile, your resume has to be up to date, has to be sharp. Your network has to be alive and active. You can't, if you lose your job and you're starting every reach out with remember me, you're in big trouble.
In big trouble. No, I've been there too. Because you kind of you think it's going to go on forever, like the housing market in 2008. Because it's easy to kind of get slugged into that. The other thing I always tell,
want to be lulled into that, because it feels good. It's like one less thing we have to worry about.
Yeah, and you're right though, but it does feel good. It's like, I'm part of this team, and we love each other, and we're working, doing great stuff. And it's just, I always tell people you should always have your resume up to date and ready to go, and you should be networking, because it means if you're still at the job you're at, that means you're there for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Right. And if you don't, but in a very real sense, to your point, man, it also means that if something happens, Mayor, you're good. You've set yourself up. But it's easy. Again, I'm thinking about myself and people I know. It's easy to put your head in the ground and think, no, this goes on forever. And I know my boss, and even my boss really likes me. And the CEO said hi to me once in the hallway, and I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah. And I understand. Again, that's very human. We don't want to live in are they going to let me go? Are they going to let me go? Like every day, you don't want to live like that. It's a terrible way to live. But you had to go there sometimes. What if they did? Then what would I do?
That's right. But it's hard. All right. So we're gonna end the part one, because this is gonna be a two-parter, because you've got so many good things to say, and I want to start going to solutions, how we kind of move past this. But I got one pet peeve of me. I just want to get and tell me, and if I'm really off, tell me to pound sand. I'm cool with it, because that's how much I respect you. But I get a little crazy too with some of the gurus of the world, the thought leaders who are constantly preaching this thing. Tap into your. I'm doing a British accent for a reason. Tap into the hearts and souls of your people, and just get. And my thing is, how about just pay them fairly, be really clear on their goals, and treat them well. Keep them around. And I resent those comments, because I think what happens to thought leaders, they all have to outdo each other or themselves year after year. They have to kind of go the next step. But I'm like, my heart and soul belongs to my God and my family. The pound of flesh already belongs to the company. Yeah, right. I'm good. But how did we get there? How do people say that and not and I see people going, oh, it's so good, it's so good. Why do you think the regular employees, they clap for that? Like, dude, the guy's telling you basically to sell your soul to the company and be happy about it. Yeah. How would you respond to that?
It's you can't have it both ways. As a company leader, you can't be saying, hey, this is just a transactional relationship, right. And we want to tap into your heart and soul. No, People do want meaning and purpose,
Yep.
community and connection,
Yep.
but they need to believe in what you're doing, and you
Yep.
need to give them ways to connect to it, but not heart and soul.
Yeah.
That's like that's not your domain, corporate
Right.
leaders.
Well said.
You can't tell me, hey, you know what? I could lay you off tomorrow but yeah, tell me your deepest desires. It just
Yeah.
you can't have it both ways.
Yes. Yes. And by the way, I don't think transactional is a dirty word anyway.
I don't either.
In
I don't
the
either.
end, there's a lot of places, like there's like a couple restaurants out here that you probably know that I go to all the time because I love them. I built a relationship to them, but I built that relationship on transactions of me eating and me
Yes.
paying. And if they have a one bad night, I'll forgive them because the
Yeah.
relationship. But if I have
That's
three bad nights, I gotta go. It's transactional.
Exactly.
That's
It's a
me,
great
Trey.
analogy. Yes.
All right, so we're gonna thank you so much. So this is gonna end up part one of this for you, and then when we come back for the next one, I want to talk a little bit more about how things work inside a company, and then what's our mindset? How do we? Because you have some really great ideas about how we kind of keep our resume up to date, we keep networking, but what's our mindset? We have to do that. So we'll see you on part two, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you, Julie.
All right, that ends part one of our conversation with career expert Julie Bauke. I just love the way she speaks the truth in a non-cynical but candid way. Her mission is to help people make sure they have careers that work for them by being very clear on how things work. So do join us for part two as we continue the conversation on the next episode of Work Trauma, How Corporations Really Work. I'm Michael Denisoff. Be sure to like, follow, and share this episode if it is helping you navigate the insane and inane aspects of the corporations where you work. See you next time.